Welcome to Inside the Vault, Enterprise Bank's podcast series where we talk about items of interest to the small business community. Today, we're going to hear another unique entrepreneurial story and talk about a growing and interesting sport and industry, which is the sport of climbing, and particularly indoor climbing and climbing facilities. With me today is Alex Bernstein, who is the CEO of Ascend Climbing. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So probably the best place to start before we start talking about climbing and Ascend is give us a little bit of your background, Alex, and some of your other partners that you have in building this indoor climbing conglomerate at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of an enterprise.
Yeah.
Bank pun intended.
Right.
Here we are at Enterprise, in Enterprise Studios. So I'm a Pittsburgher, grew up in Squirrel Hill. I've got two partners, Paul and Aaron, who are essentially Pittsburghers at this point. They've lived in the city for over a decade each. And but Paul's originally from Rochester, New York. Aaron's from outside of Pittsburgh. But we're three Pittsburghers who all were recreational climbers who came together with the idea of bringing modern indoor rock climbing to the city of Pittsburgh and the region. And here we are, 10 plus years later with a couple.
Yeah, so you and I were just talking. I guess you really envisioned this idea, back in a decade ago, right?
Yeah, I think I approached Paul in 2011.
Okay.
So it's been, at least 12 years since we first started talking about this. But, Ascend has only been truly in public existence since the beginning of 2017 when we opened the Southside Gym. Yeah. Thanks to you all.
So before we get into the history of Ascend, what was the status of the sport in the industry back in, let's say, 12 years ago when you guys first envisioned this versus now?
I mean, we'll obviously get there in the conversation, but so much has changed in a decade in indoor climbing. And in 2011 specifically, there didn't seem like there was going to be a chance that modern climbing was coming to Pittsburgh unless somebody really grabbed that bull by the horns and made it happen. It wasn't something that was venture fund backed. There was no private equity in the climbing industry at that point. And it was like, you're either an established operator and you're expanding in your market, or, you're us who took a chance on this thing and wanted to make it happen. So 2011, Pittsburgh didn't have what we ended up building, and we knew it would love it and it deserved it. And so, we took the chance on it, and I think it was a good risk to take.
So did we, because, when, and I'm not going to use the word old, but when I have a bunch of seasoned folks on my loan committee here at the bank who, other than maybe watching out west guys climb the sides of mountains, had no familiarity with the whole concept of indoor climbing. That was an interesting discussion. That was an interesting discussion.
I would have liked to be a fly on the wall for that. I'm glad the result was great, and there's obviously some stakeholders in there that helped really make this happen for us. But thanks for convincing them to take a chance on us.
No, and you guys have obviously proven yourself. So let's kind of start with the first facility. So you talk about the evolution of your Southside facility.
Yeah, the South Side, which if you haven't been there yet, not you, but you out there, please pay us a visit. But it's on the second floor of what used to be the Duquesne Brewery, on the South Side near that giant clock tower that I'm sure you've all seen. And it wasn't the dream space. It was a very cool space, but we wanted 50-foot high rope walls, and we wanted everything under the sun. But finding that magical building for first-time business owners and with our budget just wasn't possible. But we came across this building, and it was very unique. I mean, the windows in this space that overlook downtown, like, it ticks a lot of boxes except for super high ceilings. So we took a chance on it, and as the first modern climbing gym in Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh had some of the oldest, two of the first climbing gyms in the country were in Pittsburgh.
That's interesting. I'm surprised to hear that Pittsburgh was kind of a birthplace for some of this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I would do the history of it a disservice, and there are more seasoned climbers in Pittsburgh that know that history a little bit better. They paved the way for this for sure, and like I'm eternally grateful that they took this chance in the early '90s and built these gyms and created a climbing community here. It created a good foundation for us to come in and do our thing. But yeah, the South Side. It was a labor of love over about a 6-year period. But yeah, we got open in March 2017 with really what every Ascend offers, which is, ropes and bouldering. And
talk about the different offerings. Let's talk about Southside first.
Yeah, I mean, truly every gym essentially has the same offering, but, we, as our name and logo says, climbing, fitness, yoga, we think those three things are the pillars of Ascend. And so climbing comes in different disciplines. There's bouldering. There's no ropes involved in that. And you're just climbing over these big mattresses, essentially. It's way more technical than that, but I'll try to keep it simple. Then there's top roping, where there's a rope at the top of the wall. You're my climber. I'm your belayer. I keep you safe the whole way up there. And then there's sport climbing, where you actually take the rope up with you, and it's a little more exciting, still safe. And that's something that we were finally able to offer with our Point Breeze facility and our Erie facility, which just opened.
Yeah.
But Southside's got the fitness areas and cardio equipment. It's got yoga. It's got youth programming. We have a retail shop. We've got concessions items. We've got locker rooms.
So it's an experience.
Totally. Yeah.
So you mentioned. You have some kids activities. So what's the spectrum of the demographic of who climbs these days?
I mean, it's, so I'm 37 and I'm starting to feel old when I walk into the gym in the evening, but it's really, I would say like college age to young professional is the core demographic, but it is a very fast growing sport for kids in terms of the competitive landscape. USA Climbing has been doing a really awesome job over the last decade of creating, a youth competition circuit, and we've hosted a bunch of competitions under their umbrella that are, awesome experiences for the kids. They're really they're well designed. They're working with the right professionals to make sure that kids aren't being put under extreme pressures and things like that, kind of within their age brackets, but. Just like everybody played soccer when I was a kid, there's a lot of kids who are climbing these days instead of doing something more traditional like that. So yeah, youth teams, we've got summer camps. We try to do some mini camps throughout the year during some school holidays, and it's for kids just as much as it's for you and for me.
Right. So getting off the business perspective for a second. So how do I get started in climbing? I mean, what's the typical evolution of somebody getting involved in the sport?
There's really awesome like word of mouth that comes from climbing. So, our best marketers are our members who, have committed to visiting us a handful of times per month. They obviously love it, and they grab their friends and say, "Hey, come on down, come climb with me." So often people's entry into climbing is through a friend of theirs or a family member who already does it.
Right.
But it's truly for everybody. And if you went to our website and checked out our hours and our offerings and came in for the first time, our team is there to, walk you through. We're not going to, put you through a 1.5 hour boot camp on your first day, but we walk you through the facility. We point everything out. We give you some basic tips for bouldering. And, we want you to, we understand that this is new. It could be scary. It's definitely exciting.
Yeah.
And we want you to have a good time on your first day, but we'll take care of you when you walk in the door.
And it's for all fitness levels. Anybody can get started.
Totally. Yeah. And if you're super fit, you still might not have the hand strength that a climber
That's what's
has.
amazing to me is the forearm and the hand strength.
So most people, we typically say that an average customer visit is around 2 hours. Your first visit might be 30 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, your skin, you got to build up some calluses. You got to, work on that hand strength.
Right.
We want you to be able to actually like hold the steering wheel on the way home. So, take it easy your first time. But hopefully you get the bug when you walk in the door like we did.
So how did you find the walls or build the walls? I mean, how did you make that happen? Because that's the most unique part of of your construction of your project.
Yeah, and it's a big, it's a big line item, and it's
Yeah.
a big, it's a big bit of engineering and
Yeah.
design as well. I mean, when Paul and I, even before Aaron, because Aaron joined on just a hair later, we had a very low budget, and we were like, we'll get some friends, we'll get some hammers, we'll get some plywood, we can make this thing happen. Kind of little did we know, there are professional wall building companies that do this, that this is what they do. And so we ended up getting linked up with a company called Walltopia, based out of Bulgaria, but their US headquarters, of all places, ended up in Pittsburgh through happenstance. And so we worked with them to build the Southside location. And, you work with a design team to make sure all the angles and all the boulders and all the walls, do what we need them to do. They're big pieces of art as much as they're functional fitness equipment. And so you want them to look good. And then their team, erects them on site, and you end up with climbing walls. And if you ever get a chance to look behind a climbing wall, it's pretty cool. Most people don't get to see that angle, but there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just, some wood.
So in the flagship original Southside location, what wall heights do you have in there?
The rope wall only goes up to about 24 feet.
Okay.
And so that, like I said, the space wasn't, the dream space.
Right.
But we now have in Point Breeze 42-foot high walls.
Well, that's a great segue. So
and Erie's got 52. So it just keeps going up.
Yeah. So you parlayed your success in Southside into a couple other locations.
Yep.
And then we'll get to Erie, which is the latest and greatest, but both another one in and around the city and one in Ohio, right?
Correct. Yeah. We, November 2019, we acquired a facility out in Youngstown, Ohio. And it's a different type of facility. It's a lot smaller. Like our 3 flagship facilities are 27,000 square feet each, roughly. The one in Youngstown is 10. So it's,
well, that was one you just acquired as a going
Exactly.
concern. Okay.
And then, acquiring a business in November of 2019, 4 months later, some new challenges were tossed our way. So it's been a tough go out in Youngstown. It's not, the same urban market like we're used to. But then, in November is an auspicious month for us, it turns out. November of 2022, we opened up the Point Breeze facility on the other side of Pittsburgh. So,
and you had a little more to work with there, right? In terms of construction. So talk about, what that facility has to offer and what you guys did there.
Yeah. So we got linked up with our landlord / developer who was, had acquired and was redoing, a bunch of buildings in a development called Rockwell Park. And something that's always been really interesting to us is reusing existing infrastructure as opposed to building new. I mean, Pittsburgh has such cool old buildings. Like there's, we have our floor on the south side is brick, and we're on the second floor of a building that's built like a bomb shelter. And it's very aesthetically interesting.
Right.
And it's Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Rockwell Park was another opportunity for us to reuse that infrastructure and meld these new beautiful climbing walls with old steel columns that were already in the space and exterior brick walls. And it looks really nice.
So you got to go a little higher in that facility, right?
Sure did. Yeah. We finally, it took us, however many years, but we finally convinced somebody to raise the roof for us. And our landlord bumped up the roof for us up to 42 feet. And we were finally able to get tall rope walls in the city, which was a long dream of ours.
And you also still have bouldering in Point Breeze, right?
We do have bouldering in Point Breeze. We've got taller walls. We've got a yoga studio. We've got a fitness area. Really the same menu of offerings over there as the South Side, but with taller walls, which is exciting.
And the way your business is set up, your members can use either facility or any of the facilities, right?
Yeah, we've got a global membership. And that's, something that really sets us apart from the competition in Pittsburgh is that we've got 2 facilities that you can make, use of your membership at. And they're, we try to have a similar, the Ascend community vibe. We'd like to be, generally the same at
like
all of our gyms. Yeah. but not in a, not in a stuffy way,
Right,
but just
right.
in a like, we have certain mottos that we live by, and we want all of our facilities to
All right,
achieve
what
that
are
baseline.
they?
I just,
Tease us.
are like, we want to be a top employer. We want to be a community hub. We want to be, a bastion of, modern fitness and socializing and all of the things. And we want to be very welcoming. We're not, we're not excluding anybody. We want to be very inclusive. So I just, we want to have that baseline
Right.
everywhere we go. But there's a little bit of a different, the South Side might be a bit more student heavy than Point Breeze, which might have more families. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily true,
Right.
and different days of the week are all different. But it's cool that people can have this one membership and check out both facilities, climb ropes on a Saturday over in Point Breeze, and boulder with their friends on Tuesday night in the South Side. It's fun.
And you've told me offline that one of the major keys to your success is your employee base,
Absolutely.
and that they're all pretty much stoked climbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix.
They just love the sport.
Yeah, I think I'm sure, like, prior to Ascend, I worked in the meat department at Whole Foods. I worked in a bike shop in high school. I worked in the dining hall
Right.
at when I was at the university. And a job's a job, and it both is fulfilling because you get a paycheck and you get to learn some new stuff, but it also kind of sucks because it's a job. Like, jobs are not inherently fun. So, I get when I say like working for us is fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't capture 100% of the picture, but I do think we have a really unique environment to work in. And I've always tried to instill in, my coworkers and our team, make the most of it while you're here. Like, learn something new about your coworker, or learn a new rope skill, or, really anything. Don't just come here for a paycheck. Come here to, to meet people, to engage, and to learn. I think that encompasses most of our staff, honestly. And, people have enjoyed being in this, retail meets service job, service industry job. So I think we figured something out. There's always room for improvement. I'm not going to say we're perfect, but
so let's jump to the latest and greatest.
Yeah.
You went up north.
We did go north.
So Erie, Pennsylvania. You guys just opened a first class. Probably had the greatest influence on design up there, right?
A little bit. I mean, we got approached by the Erie Downtown Development Corporation 4 years ago at this point, and they were looking for an anchor tenant to help with a lot of their new redevelopment in downtown Erie, which downtown Erie is going through a renaissance right now in an awesome way. I'd been to Erie a bunch in the last decade. Place is lovely. Like obviously when it's very snowy and cold, people are a little sad up there,
right.
And that's why we opened up an indoor recreation facility first and foremost. But it's a really lovely town, and everybody up there is just extremely welcoming. I mean, it's not too dissimilar from Pittsburgh. We get a very similar vibe. But EDDC approached us and said, "Hey, take a chance on Erie with us," and it made sense. It's an open market, a place that doesn't have a lot of indoor family-oriented recreation, or really just
But a lot of your target demographic students.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, we're 1 block away from Gannon. Like, that's a huge market for us. And Erie Insurance is 2 blocks away, and they've got thousands of employees. Like, there are people that will appreciate us being part of the fabric of downtown.
Yeah.
And I think
if you really want, you can live above the climbing gym, right?
Yeah, there's 30 apartments right upstairs. We tried to score a free apartment, but that was shot down, unfortunately. But yeah, we've always been eager to bring climbing to people. Like, it changed our lives. I'm a very recreational climber, but when I climb, I feel so good mentally, physically. It just is a
rush for you.
Not even a rush, but it's almost meditative in a lot of ways. And it's meditative while getting fit. So like, how can you hate that?
Right.
And so access to climbing, these are multi-million-dollar facilities. They're not just going to open up anywhere.
Right.
And that excludes some people. You're not just going to be able to pop one up anywhere in, any part of Pittsburgh. It has to be intentional. And so with Point Breeze and Erie, we really had some good opportunities to engage, parts of these regions really that otherwise wouldn't get a chance to experience climbing. And, not that I'm not trying to be too, putting us on some weird
grandiose
pedestal. Yeah. But, I think we can have a really cool impact. And,
so Erie's really brand new, right? You just opened last month.
Brand new.
And you got ultra high walls up there, right?
Yeah. It's, I've climbed on, 100 plus foot walls outside. It's 52 feet. And, my stomach, when I'm at the top of those walls, there's a little bit of a, it's awesome, but it's, it reminds you that, height is a thing. So.
And it's a full service gym too, with all the other amenities like you have in Point Breeze and Southside, right?
Yeah. Still building out the yoga program. We've got a couple of instructors right out of the gate, but we're, I think when we opened up the Southside gym, we had like 40 classes a week, and we probably did too much too early. So we're trying to be a bit more intentional with rolling out programming, but we've got a yoga studio, we've got a fitness area that we're, still working to just add stuff to that we know the people need and want, but the climbing areas are 100%, and so far so good. I think people are really enjoying it. Positive feedback so far.
Yeah, for those in our listening or viewing audience, I get up to Erie fairly often for bank activity up there. Amazing what they're doing downtown. There's a lot of money gone into the State Street corridor, right?
I think like $500 million is what has generally been invested so far, and not just by our landlord, but other groups as well. And it's cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool bars, restaurants, coffee shops, different things opening up. You guys are pretty handy to the Bayfront, handy to the hockey and baseball facilities.
Yeah,
really cool, really cool. So we've got 4 locations now. What does the future look like for Ascend?
That's the multi-million-dollar question, obviously. I think right now, my mentality at this moment is, 2024, we're going to focus on ourselves, and we're going to focus within. And we've got some reinvestment to do in some of our facilities, and, we've got some fine-tuning and pruning to do as well. We've always said, we're not here. I don't think we're here to be a national chain. Like that's a tall order. And for a couple of, for a few guys that wanted to build a climbing gym in their hometown, national ambitions feel counter to our strategic objectives. Yeah. But regionally, I would love to be and continue to be, the premier climbing operator in Western PA, Eastern Ohio. So I think, we're never going to stop looking for growth opportunities, but we also are going to spend some more time just exploring internal growth opportunities and making sure that we're making smart choices for us, for our investors, for our employees, for our community. And smart choices aren't always, go spend a few $1 million and open up another gym.
Right.
So, I think we're taking a little breather after Erie. This has been 2 years, almost to the day, early November opening
when
up
you started
gym.
Construction. Yeah.
So, kind of looking forward to a little breather and focusing within.
Well, you guys are making a huge economic impact yourselves, not just through your customers, but I mean, what's your total employee count across the facilities?
Oof, I think we're trying to, as the guy who approves the payroll reports, I think we just wrote in this last pay period just under 150 individual checks.
Awesome.
So, and that's, not everybody necessarily works every.
You have some part-timers.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're getting close to that 50 FTE threshold, which is awesome for, health insurance requirements. I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
But we've grown. There's a lot of people in the mix, and it's inspiring and also a little scary at times. Kind of kind of what that economic impact is.
Right. So across the 4 facilities, you offer memberships, right?
Yep.
Day passes, right?
Yep.
And then you do a lot of events too, right?
Yeah, I mean, anything from, do you want to host your kid's birthday party to, a regional competition that you can participate in or spectate. We try to engage the community from all different angles. And I think, we've always got some room for improvement in terms of some of those pillars and, how to do the right yoga events versus fitness versus climbing. But we're trying to, we want to make use of our spaces all the hours of the week that we are open. And engaging the public schools on a Tuesday afternoon is an awesome way to do that, or hosting an adaptive climbing event on a weekend morning to get folks who otherwise wouldn't have a chance to climb into the sport. That's awesome. So we probably do too much, Dave. Our team sometimes thinks we do too much, but it's in our DNA.
I didn't ask you this in advance, so maybe you don't know the number right off the top of your head, but I mean, how many members or how many people do you guys touch? I know you have a huge database.
Yeah, I mean, we're I probably wouldn't share our exact membership number. Some of
I get it.
Some things are a little proprietary,
I get it.
But we almost doubled our membership in Pittsburgh when we opened up the Point Breeze gym, which mission almost accomplished.
Yeah, because I mean, the only we talked about when you did it, are you going to cannibalize one for the other, and that hasn't happened.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen folks kind of switch home gyms, if you will. But we're on a monthly basis across all gyms, we're talking about tens of thousands of customer visits.
Wow.
Just not necessarily unique people, but just how
visits.
Many check-ins we've got, and it's pretty cool. So, most days I'm like, I have all this work to do. And I have to remind myself of, this work leads to this really exciting impact and, people having a great time in our facilities. We're doing it for a reason. It's not just a paycheck.
So, 12 years from inception of the idea, coming up on 7 years of actual operations. What kind of advice do you have for other aspiring or existing entrepreneurs? What's the biggest lessons you've learned in this process?
Have partners. Obviously it's different for every business type, but I could not do this without my partners. I would have lost my mind. My wife would have probably divorced me and said, there's not enough time. Just having that redundancy, be able to take a vacation. When you see sole proprietors who haven't taken a vacation in 3 years, like that's gotta wear you down to a point that's not sustainable. So having partners has been huge. Take chances. I mean, I'm the son of a bankruptcy attorney. And so I learned very early on, the bankruptcy code was written to let people take chances and to give you, not a get out of jail free card by any means, but you can't have entrepreneurial spirit when the only outcome is like total failure and never being able to start over again. Like we have, checks and balances in the system that let you take chances. And I think those things are really, helpful, but take a chance and give it your all. I think there's been a lot of people over the years who've come to us and said, hey, we read your story in the Climbing Business Journal, or we saw this article about you. We're thinking about opening up a gym. 99% of those people never get to that finish line. The 1% that do, I'm very proud of, and I'm very excited that they've joined that business community. But, I think those people are a testament to like, it is not for everybody. I will say that.
Right.
But take that, if you're excited about taking that chance and you've got the fortitude to do it, go for it. The downsides are limited, in my opinion.
Well,
and
really,
the upsides are huge.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you made a believer out of our loan committee and board, and great success you've had so far, and looking forward to the future. So, how can our viewers and listeners find your facilities, learn more about Ascend,
sure,
and get involved?
Yeah, easiest way, Google Ascend Climbing, but ascendclimbing.com is our website. That's got all of the information that you could possibly imagine. Pick up the phone and call our teams.
You guys are active on social media too, right?
Very active. Yeah. So Instagram, Facebook. I don't know if we're doing that much on Twitter these days. TikTok, we're starting to get a little more content on. You guys are
set up awesome for TikTok.
Yeah. So yeah, you can't miss us.
Right.
But come in and try it out. You get free rental gear on your first day, so that makes it a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
We just rolled out some additional family pricing to make it a bit more affordable for family visits, which was some feedback that we were hearing.
Really appreciate. Great story. Really unique sport and industry, continues to grow. Thank you for your relationship with the bank.
Heck yeah.
For those of you that have any ideas for future episodes of Inside the Vault, you can email us at insidethevault@enterprisebankpgh.com. You can check us out in audio format on all the major podcast platforms and in video format on YouTube. Alex, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. You're welcome, and thank you. It was good to see you and catch up for a few.